How you
are you this
doing?
morning? I'm
Oh,
fine, thanks. We're here at the Pointdexter Park Inn,
and thank you for choosing to stay here and
and that's
let
your
me.
that's your place.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Tell me about it, because it's a
Well,
great place. Yeah.
well, a while back,
Mhm.
I found this old house
Mhm.
and said I wanted to save it. It had been empty 7 years, so it was pretty
Messed up.
bad.
Mhm.
And so I decided, what can I do and make a place where people might want to come back into this house, this neighborhood. So I decided I would lift up blues that had a connection to the central part of Mississippi.
Mhm.
And I studied about blues history, blues places, contributions, and I try to put a little bit on the wall to help people understand this rich history. And it's worked out well, and I enjoy the guests coming and enjoy telling a few stories about what I've learned.
Mhm. Because you did a lot of renovation on the house.
Well, the house, right? It was really so sad looking. So I said, I'm gonna make it yellow,
Mhm.
make it bright again.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I did almost everything
It
else.
is, and it is really connected with the blues. Everything that you see here on the walls breeds blues.
Well,
Like
it tries to tell a story.
Are most visitors that are staying here with you people that are interested in the blues history of
They
Jackson
do.
and
They
the
find
environment?
me online.
Uh-huh.
It's always amazing, and they come from the States, but they come from all over the world.
Mhm.
Heavy visitors from Europe, of course.
Mhm.
Love to have folks. I
Mhm.
make them sign on my map so I can remember they're coming.
Because that's one of the great things of Pointdexter Park Inn, and mainly of you being the host here, is that you got a lot of stories, inside information about everything that's going on in Jackson and has been going on for a few years.
Well, when I first started telling the story, I was the only one telling it. Well, amazingly, the state finally decided, that is tourism.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started telling those stories.
Mhm.
And that's really good that I
Mhm.
don't have to be the only one telling it. And so now we have more and more people coming to Mississippi
And how did blues started? How did blues grab you?
Well, well, I found a record in San Antonio, Texas. I was on the city council, went to city meetings, but I would go to old record shops and bookstores. And I found a '78 record, and it said Trumpet Records, Jackson, Mississippi.
Trumpet Records, that was the label.
That was the label. And, well, I didn't know then, but that label certainly came right off of Ferry Street, right down the road from my inn here. And so I started with that kind of history and detailing what happened on Ferry Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then it led me to other stories. But Ferry Street has a lot of history, and so I was really excited to begin to tell that story. And I'm now glad that our state government tells that story and helps to understand that it brings people to this country, to Mississippi, to Jackson, and to right here.
Yeah,
Pointdexter Park Inn.
Uh-huh.
That's really fascinating to me.
It would be good for European people to come here, because with you as a guide, they can explore Jackson and the blues history in a big way.
Well, I try to give them a little bit that they might. I try to find out what they have interest in, and then help them plan their activities around that.
Good.
And they're not always just here in Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
They may be out and about.
Mm-hmm. And a part of that, you've been a great host to us. It felt like coming home.
Well, thank you.
Tell us the story.
Well, let me tell you the story that I think is most fascinating.
Uh-huh.
Robert Johnson was found right on Ferry Street in Jackson, Mississippi. H.C. Spear had a furniture store, but he also sold music-related kinds of things. At that time, it was wind-up players, record players, 78 records. Well, so he also was a talent scout for record companies, and he heard Robert Johnson sing. Got him on tape. Oh, I don't know if it's actually tape, but recorded him then. sent it to Paramount Records, and they said, yes, we want to record him. They took Robert Johnson to San Antonio. He recorded this music. Well, come to find out, a lot of that music is the kind of music that just creates itself as it moves along, and a lot of people contributed to it, but Robert Johnson recorded it. And so he was the one who got all the credit for all of those great songs. And the thing is that he was born just south of Jackson in Hazelhurst, out from town on a plantation. And then we found out he had a son, Claude Johnson. So eventually, one of the researchers that I read a lot, Geraldine Wardlaw, said, Mr. Claude, he was on location with a documentary, said, Mr. Claude, if I were you, I would get you a lawyer and get your daddy's royalties. Well, to make a long story short, he did that, and he won this case after several trips to upper levels to say, oh, there's a problem. But he won that case. And so Mr. Claude Johnson is no longer a gravel truck driver. He actually has a nice, great new home and doesn't have to work anymore. And his sons now run their foundation. They learned that it was easier with all this income coming in to have a foundation and do some creative educational things with it. So that was a really good ending for Robert Johnson and his family.
Great story, great story. Didn't know that.
Well, and the funny part about it is in that trial, the key testimony came from Mrs. Williams, who actually was the witness to the event that created Claude Johnson. So, in the testimony, she's in her 80s and she has to give her story. Well, she said, well, yes, she did watch it. Said, wouldn't you? And it cracked up the courtroom judges, the people who wanted to keep their royalties coming, but she was the key witness and won for Claude Johnson and his family.
Good for him, good for her, I guess.
Right.
Hope
so
she enjoyed
even
it.
though Robert Johnson was a rambling man, he left his heirs to his heirs, and great music to the world.
Yeah, he did. He really did. He was something.
But it's just amazing he was found right here, born just south of here.
Great story, and another reason to come to Jackson.
Please come.
We will, and a lot of European people will also, I think.
I know they will.
Thanks again.
And thank you.
Thanks again.